Digitally printed flexible packaging is indeed an untapped market. Less than 1% of flexible packaging today is produced digitally. So there is a market that is just beginning to understand what the benefits are to digital printing.
You know, we're in Walmart, we're in Sprouts, the package stands out. For someone to be able to give that to me as a startup and kind of me fighting against the world, it's just been huge.
We've actually been able to grow the business and hire employees, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without that packaging.
We've had a few larger grocery stores contact us after we've launched these pouches, which has been amazing just because we look ready for that next level. It's changed the whole game for us.
In all of those cities that we're in, there are literally thousands of these young entrepreneurs looking to move into a market and know that we can help them. It's almost unlimited potential.
We are back, everybody. We had a schedule change, but we have Carl, who was just in the ePac video, with us today. Carl, I believe you're the head of marketing. Is that correct? Sales and marketing, yes.
That's right. Yeah, I'm one of the 3 original co-founders and chief marketing officer.
Excellent. So, we've titled this presentation, "The Future is Flexible." And originally, when I was speaking to Jeff about this presentation, I was, telling him that it's a very noticeable shift. Everywhere I look, that things are moving to flexible packaging. And in many ways, the plastic comes up. It's plastic, but I actually heard some of the best arguments about how flexible packaging is more sustainable than paper in many ways. If you just think about the ancillary things, the shipping, the amount of packaging it takes to put packages in packages, the shelf space, you could fit more on the shelf, which means there's less less deliveries, less shipping, less all these things that really make that pouch very, very attractive. And it was also mentioned in a previous session that specialty finishing had better, keep on its toes, because the environmental groups are really not having it on packaging anymore. They're not happy about it. And therefore, the brands are starting to really, really take note. And flexible packaging is really an easy shift for them to make with the right products. So I'm really, I just want to thank you personally for supporting this event. You were one of the first people to jump in, thanks to Harvey Levinson. I just want to thank you so much for that. And I'm going to turn it over to you. The future is flexible.
Well, thanks so much, Deborah, and hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on your time zone, I guess. And yes, Harvey is a dear friend. He actually was involved with ePac at the very early days when we were still studying the market to figure out whether or not there was a market for ePac. So our roots with Cal Poly go back, pretty far. But Deborah, I'd like to play off of your intro and really talk about a few things that all kind of tie together. I'm not sure that everybody understands ePac, where we came from, why we exist. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about about basically who we are. Some of the market factors, some of you mentioned a couple of them. Some of the market factors we saw when we were studying the market before we created ePac, and some of the market factors that have continued to play out that have really been instrumental to our growth. And then a little bit about our technology platform. We like to think that we're a tech company at the intersection of tech and manufacturing. And we put a lot of focus on the systems that we build to support the business. So I don't know, Deborah, does that agenda make sense to you?
Absolutely. It all makes sense to me. I believe that Jeff had a talk prepared. I'm not sure if has he spoken to you about that, or do you want to
Yeah, we
just go in
talked.
a
No, we talked
okay.
about 2 hours ago. His wife had to go in for an emergency root canal, and
Yes, of course. Look, things
yeah,
happen. Yeah.
yeah. So we talked about what he was going to talk about exactly. So, but you're going to get my version of it.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
take it away then.
Okay. So, really, our origin goes back into 2013, 14, 15. I had I was going to retire then and consult like so many people in the printing industry. I had led marketing teams for Xerox, Ricoh, and Ose throughout my career. So I really understood digital printing and I understood marketing. And so I thought that that's where I would focus my consulting. And as luck would have it, the first consulting gig I got was with a private equity company that owned a lot of packaging companies. And I started to kind of take a look at market dynamics in the packaging market, specifically flexible packaging. The assignment was an international assignment. And we started to run into things that these flexible packaging companies were having a great deal of difficulty with. They were seeing much shorter runs. They were seeing demands for quicker turnaround. And on occasion, they would see demand for things that involve variable data. And then there were also some sustainability issues starting to creep up back then that we thought that digital printing could have an impact on as well. So we started to see this groundswell, if you will, of issues bubble up that the traditional flexible packaging companies like Amcor and Berry and Pro-Ampac, they were really struggling with. So the next step was we commissioned a research project between myself, Cal Poly, and we actually had quite a few sponsors from the industry: Zycon, Xerox, Ricoh, Ose, Konica Minolta, and the list goes on and on. But the study was designed to work with Packaging World magazine and their database of subscribers and ask questions around technology innovation in packaging. And so we created a survey. We ended up generating about 5,000 different data points from the questions that we asked. Cal Poly helped us decipher what was the intelligence that we were gaining from this survey. And it all pointed to a lot of interest in digital printing. And as you started to turn to flexible packaging, the only problem was back then, there really weren't any printers that could handle polymer substrates. And the closest to it was HP's Indigo 20,000, which was in beta test at the time. So we kept our eye on that. We ran a focus group with some rather large CPGs, and we were getting to the same place, that there was definitely a market need for things that we thought that we could do with the HP Indigo 20,000, assuming it worked and it came out of beta and it was a viable option. So we ended up actually partnering with Kevin Kelly, who was the CEO of Emerald Packaging, who actually had the first beta machine in North America for of the Indigo 20,000. And Kevin was kind of lamenting that he was having a hard time making money with it. And he wasn't used to the short run stuff. He wasn't used to how pre-press was done rather than making plates. And salespeople were used to selling big orders. Now they're selling smaller orders. And so he was actually at the point where he was going to send back the beta machine. And so I mentioned to him that I had been doing some consulting and I had been working with a fellow named Jack Knott. Jack Knott at the time was the CEO of ePac and has a very long career as the CEO of flexible packaging companies, probably over 30 years. And so Jack and I were working together on looking at what we could do with digital printing. Kevin used us to kind of get some additional intelligence. And what we ended up doing was creating a greenfield that became ePac, flexible packaging, in April of 2016. And the first plant was put into Madison, Wisconsin. So it had one printer, it had one laminator, solventless laminator, it had one pouch machine, and we did a lot of work on Excel spreadsheets. So it was truly a bootstrap greenfield initiative going into a market that we thought that there was a lot of potential in, but we weren't sure. So we opened the doors in 2016 and hoped that the phone would ring. And lo and behold, it did. And what we found was we had tapped into basically an unserved market. There were these small, medium-sized businesses that were growing like crazy for reasons that are separate. But and once they outgrew the farmers market way of distributing their product, and they needed to go on shelves or needed to go on an online website, I guess Amazon, they really needed to have more professional looking packaging. But to buy the packaging in the old traditional way before we came around, yeah, they had to buy 10 times more than they needed in order to get a decent unit price, get a decent price at all, or they had to go overseas to China, endure 2-3 month lead time, and there were all kinds of problems with that. So when we came around and we had a lead time value proposition of 15 business days, and we would handle very, very short runs. In fact, our run length, there was no minimum order quantity. It was really dollar driven. We would only accept an order of maybe $2,500, $1,500 on roll stock. So really not a very big order in the scheme of things when you're talking about flexible packaging. But we started to pitch this value proposition because it's all we knew. I had been involved with digital printing and saw how it impacted markets for almost 3 decades, working in my career. And then we had Jack, who really understood how flexible packaging operations worked and saw ways that digital printing could really have an operational impact on it. And so off we went. We partnered with Kevin. He swapped the HP Indigo 20,000 beta machine for equity in ePac. We had 3 original investors, myself, Jack, and a fellow named Parag Patel, who now serves as our CEO. Jack has since retired and sits as an advisor for us. And so we were off and running. So we had Madison open about 6 months, and we decided the volume was building to the point where we needed a second press. We started to see interest coming from all over the country. We put our second location about a year later in Boulder, Colorado. And from there, we just kept growing. We today have 23 plants. I think most of those are in North America, but we also have them in the UK, in Poland, in France, in Austria. We have one in Ghana, Africa. We have one in Australia and one in Indonesia. So obviously we tapped into a market that really liked what we were doing. And so then it's a question of, all right, other than printing pouches, making pouches, which was great for these small, medium-sized brands because they a lot of times flexible packaging is bought as roll stock, and it's given to a co-manufacturer or a third party that will make the pouch out of the roll stock and fill it. And a lot of these small brands weren't quite there yet. So they were happy with buying finished pouches in small quantities, ordering to demand as their business grew. And that was one of the beauties of digital printing. It's always been the answer for print on demand. So we were able to shorten our lead times down to about 10 days. And, today we have just thousands of customers all over the world. And we continue to look for ways to tap into the market and to understand these market trends so we can better chart our path forward. For example, we know that SMBs have grown a lot over the last, call it 5 years or so. You might ask why? Well, a lot of it has to do with all the money that was being put into the economy, the availability of cash that made borrowing money not only easier at least for these small businesses, but the interest rates were extremely low. So when they needed to borrow money to expand or to go into a new product line, that capital was there, and that helped spur their growth. We also saw a shift from rigid packaging to flexible packaging, and as Deborah mentioned, there were many reasons for that. The sustainability aspect of it being one. The manufacture of a flexible package is far more environmentally friendly than rigid packaging is today. You've got the transportation aspect of it to think about when you're transporting little compressed thin packages as opposed to cylinders or boxes to take up a ton of room. More trucks on the road, more gas, more pollutants, and people that study this stuff can go on and on and on. But there were a lot of reasons for flexible packaging gaining in popularity. Finishing attributes started to become more common, putting spouts in flexible packages so that you could put oil in it and pour it into your engine, or juicy juice for your kid. I mean, there were all kinds of things that were happening from a market standpoint that was helping to drive the demand for flexible packaging. And generally, these shorter runs and these quicker turnaround items, because what small business doesn't want to get to market quickly? What business doesn't want to get to market quickly? So if we can turn a job around in, say, 10 or 15 days, it was to everybody's benefit. So continuing along the line of market drivers, we also came into business around the time that the cannabis craze was starting to really ignite. Seemed as though every other month there was another state that was going legal, either with medicinal or recreational. And all of these little cannabis companies that were popping up all over the place needed packaging. And for the same reasons that other kinds of products were moving to pouches, flexible packaging was something that was a great deal of interest to these cannabis manufacturers. And so that helped our growth, helped it a lot. We have 3 plants in Canada. We have Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal as our newest. And Canada's cannabis legislation is national. So you don't have to deal with all these little state regulations and all these little nuances about what you have to put on a package or you can't put on a package. And so it made the commercialization of legal cannabis in Canada go quite smoothly and faster. And so, that was another growth driver for us. We've seen the trend in nutraceuticals. We've seen it in pharmaceuticals and just medical devices in general. More and more things are coming in flexible packages as opposed to rigid packages. So I guess you could say we were lucky. We saw the trend coming maybe a little bit before it came, but it certainly grew us to the point where today we have probably 8,000 customers. We have, I can't count them anymore. I think it's close to 50 of these printers around the world. And we've developed software to help stitch all that together. So I'm going to jump now a little bit to our technology platform, because I think that really speaks to the heart of who we are. We were the first company in the world to base our flexible packaging production environment on digital printing, all digital printing. We do not have a flexo press. We do not have a rotogravure press. It is all done digitally. And so we became best friends with HP, as you might imagine. And I believe today we're still the biggest Indigo user. Kind of amazing when you think about the fact that we are really only been in business 7 years now. So from a technology standpoint, we obviously started with digital printing. I knew a lot about it, and Jack and Virag were quick studies, and we built our business model around digital printing. And we built our financials around what we thought we could achieve with digital printing. And so that was the first major technology decision. We have since built an online ordering tool that is in the process of being rolled out. Only 1 out of 15 people that go on our website right now will see it. But as we get more market feedback for how that online ordering tool is being used and the perception of it by the market, we'll open it up more. So that's something that we've been working on. And online ordering, real-time estimating, those kinds of things in the flexible packaging world are pretty complex. And so there's a lot behind that. There wasn't any online ordering tool. There wasn't any web-to-print tool on the market that was addressable to flexible packaging at the time. So we really didn't have any choice but to build it ourselves. We then also started to pay a lot of attention to connected packaging. We were hearing terms, smart packaging, connected packaging, track and trace. We knew we could do something different with digital. We could literally make every single pouch we create have its own digital identity, almost like a snowflake. And so for those applications, where the pouch needed to be unique to that particular instance, we had the capability to do it once we came up with our solution, which we call ePac Connect. ePac Connect is simply a partnership with ScanTrust. They're an Internet of Things blockchain company that focuses on connected packaging. And we collectively came up with an offering that was geared towards small and medium-sized businesses. What we found at the time we first started to look at flexible packaging was that connected packaging was only for the big guys. It's only for the Procter and Gambles and people that could afford $100,000 a year for a system to put QR codes on a package, to to give it the kind of track and trace capabilities, anti-counterfeiting capabilities that these brands were looking for. If you were a smaller brand and you wanted to do something like link it to your website, link the package through a QR code to your website, you wanted to be able to tell a story about how your coffee was grown, you want to tell a story about how your fish was farmed, all this stuff, right? And in the case of cannabis, tell a story about maybe the seed and the origin of all that. So these smaller companies now, they couldn't afford $100,000, some cases more, for these solutions. And so we came out with one that was essentially free to get started, penny a pouch as you started to go up into added functionality. So we have customers now that use ePac Connect for authenticating their product, anti-counterfeiting, simply linking to their website, cross-selling through it. A lot of customer engagement, consumer engagement between the brand and the consumer. And these brands, all brands of all sizes, they're all looking really for ways to connect differently with the consumer. And so this gave us a way to do that. And so ePac Connect became a very important arrow in our quiver, if you will. I believe I mentioned ePac One, but ePac One again is a system that we developed to connect all of our printers together so that they can essentially act as one. So we could seamlessly move a job from point A to point B if it made more sense to print it there. If we had a really big job that we needed to split up to multiple locations, we could do that. And that has allowed us to begin to serve larger brands. So no longer are we an SMB type of a supplier only, but we've been able to move up market into these larger brands and handle the longer run lengths because we could simply split them up, bring them back together, and really have 40 printers acting as one. So, then there is also this issue of sustainability, right? And it's something that, until the economy became a big problem for us, sustainability was the biggest topic. And then, our customers started to get affected, by problems in the economy, which you all know probably better than I do. But it was affecting our customer base, it was affecting us. So we had to react to it. But before that, and I suspect very, very shortly, the number one thing we're gonna be talking about is going to be sustainability. So we have had a very active R&D process around polyethylene films that are recyclable, with post-consumer recycled films that are made up of recycled material. I believe we're up to about close to 50% of the material is made from recycled material. So it's not recyclable, but it's better than virgin plastic, right? And then there's the world of compostables. And everybody likes to talk about compostable because, they think it's biodegradable. They think that but where do you take it? Where do you see compost centers? Do you see industrial compost center, commercial? You just don't. And you see different labels saying compostable, suitable for backyard composting. Well, I don't know. My son has a backyard compost pile, but I don't know too many other people that do. So, and then you take a look at the availability of compostable film, and the supply chain is really not there. It's coming online. but to have a reliable source, a supply chain for compostable film is just not a thing, right now. So so our sustainability message really hangs on the environmental friendliness of our process, with digital printing being far less of a consumer of electricity and water. Its carbon footprint is very, very small. In fact, I believe it's neutral. We've continued to keep our R&D people busy with looking for new answers of films. And in Europe also, where we have quite a bit of business, their objectives to move to a kind of a zero plastic environment, or a fully recyclable environment, is more aggressive than what we have in North America. And so we're working on other solutions there, such as biodegradable paper solutions and things of that nature. So sustainability has been a big part of what has driven us. So what you can see in back of me, if I lean a little bit here, you'll see one of the presses. I don't know if it's running at the moment. Doesn't look like it is. Was a second ago, but we've got three presses, 3 HP Indigo 20,000s. We're also swapping out. They have a new model that we're in the process of swapping our fleet out into. So it's more productive. So we may be able to go with a few less printers. And then we have a room. The room in back of me is climate controlled. Then we have a warehouse space that holds, I think there's 3 pouch machines in this office now. One Nord Mechanica solventless lamination device does it for us. And, and we have a slitter and a rewinder, but so it's a fairly simple footprint. All of our offices are about 25,000 square feet, give or take. That's ePac, really, just to kind of give you the short version of how we got to where we are and who we are. And I don't know, Deborah, if you have time for questions or how you want to handle this, but I can certainly do that.
Yeah. First of all, I'm sure I'll pop on the screen in one moment. First of all, just thank you so much for sharing all that information. I'm telling you, I was at Label Expo and I had this crazy conversation with a pouch guy, and I was just like, plastic. And he's like, let that go. Yeah. He's like, the entire process of flexible packaging, for everything we mentioned, with them, there's more on a shelf, there's less deliveries, there's so much, there's less people, there's less space involved, there's less equipment. It's very difficult to make an argument against that. Now, I have been on the flexible packaging train for a while. Once I started seeing like oranges in packages and things of that nature. I know that sounds weird, but in the supermarkets here, they put fruit in packages. They're a little bigger. But there is no doubt. I mean, we see gourmet pet food comes in in flexible packaging now. And you're absolutely right. At some point, look, I can take that flexible package 90% of the time, put it in my recycling bin, and it is going to be recycled because it's plastic, right? Even if it's wrong, the person at the recycling plant is going to think it's plastic, it can be recycled, and will put it in the stream faster than they will put some foil on a postcard into that stream. I'm all for paper, but this is like kind of like a little mind F, if I can say that, because we're trained plastic bad, but that's not always the case. However, to your most excellent point, short of, food substances and things need to last. There needs to be food barriers in certain things, but there are untapped resources. There's people now making, I don't really want to call them plastics. Maybe I'll call them substrates out of cornstarch and hemp and all of these other, to your point, biodegradable materials for the right things that need to be in there. I swear, and I've been saying this for a while, if I was going to decide one day, I'm going to get into the packaging business, it would be flexible packaging. I would skip right over boxes. I don't have a problem with boxes, but I don't think that that's what the future is going to be. There are just too many arguments for the ease and honestly the full sustainability of these products. One last thing I just want to say before we wrap this up is, well, actually two things. First, if you ever need any volunteers for product testing in the cannabis market, just want to know that I'm your girl. I'm there for you. And second, I want to lodge a complaint because opening these damn packages has become impossible. And I just use a scissor now. I give up completely. So stop messing with the people who smoke marijuana, who basically look at this package and cannot figure out how to get it open.
Well, don't let the cannabis police hear that. They'll be right after you.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it is a very difficult process, and I don't think you should be messing with us when it comes to that. We don't do well with puzzles, things like that in certain cases. But
well, there's a whole certification process we have to go through when we manufacture a pouch that's child resistant. There's a very arduous certification process we have to put that.
But it's adult resistant too, which is the problem, and it's certainly cannabis smoker resistant. I'm telling you, I don't even bother anymore. I just get a scissor and cut it open. I cannot be bothered. So good job on protecting children. Bad job on keeping product from the people who want to use it. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, for your support, for your sponsorship. Shout out to Jeff. Hope everything works out with you. Sir, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. We will be right back with John Thorburn from Canon Solution, from Canon.